in the studio, we have Mayor of Upper Hutt, His Worship Wayne Guppy. Welcome, Wayne. It's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here.
And I'll let Paul ask the first question.
Oh, that's a dangerous thing to do. First question is going to be light and fluffy, actually. Are you New Zealand's longest serving mayor?
At this stage, I am, yes. I mean, not up until, I think, present day, longest serving mayor. Yeah.
When you first started on the journey, as I said, when you first went for it, did you actually think you'd be in the job this long?
No, not at all. In fact, I didn't have, I certainly didn't think I'd be here for 24 years, put it that way.
So we recently saw that you voted not to retain your Maori wards. What was your decision behind that, and were you satisfied with the decision?
Yeah, look, one of the issues that I thought the council considered was the fact that we were still working through and finalising our relationship with mana whenua. And I know that the councillors that voted not to have a Maori ward was for saying that what was really important was that we get our relationship finalised and sorted out with mana whenua first, and then that. And the others will follow on, because, of course, remember, just by having Maori wards doesn't guarantee that mana whenua are going to be represented around the table. And so we were working with particularly the iwi that we deal with, and making sure. And I thought it was the appropriate thing was to sort out our relationship there and what their requirements were. That certainly doesn't. If the population want to have a referendum, 5%. The legislation clearly says if 5% of the population sign a petition, and then you need to consider that. But certainly it was about getting the relationship first with mana whenua.
How much of that decision came into play around, because you guys elect at large, don't you? You don't have individual wards.
No.
How much of that decision-making process involved looking at, we're an at-large electorate, so carving a part out might be a bit more complicated?
We looked at all the considerations that we needed to look at. You're right, with wards and what would be the consequences of it, and would we continue with having some of the election, some of the at large, or some with wards. But we certainly had a comprehensive, if you like, representative review to have a look before we made that decision.
And did the hikoi in recent days change your perspective any, if at all?
No, I mean, that was people, New Zealanders, as their right, and as expressing their opinion and protesting against things. I mean, it won't be the first, and it won't be the last. So the point of view, that's the strength of living in a democracy, being able to voice your concerns and have the ability to protest.
Okay. Now we've got the election coming up next year. What are your hopes for that, and can you reveal any personal plans yet?
Well, I'm still very keen to continue, but it's look, one of the things that we really need to do in Wellington for the region and Upper Hutt, we're part of that. In the time I've been mayor, one of the disappointing things is, depending on the personalities that get elected within the region, particularly the mayors and councillors, but we as a region need to be far more locked in and working together, and that's and the region hasn't worked together as effectively as it should have over the last 5 or 6 years. It's certainly some of the time that I've been involved, and is that the region has worked well together. But again, it's about personalities, and then people cherry pick and think that their city's the centre and the beginning and the end of the world, and things unravel. So for the region to progress, I've always been of the thought that if the Wellington city's got to hum, and then we all hum, and it's really important for us to, as a region and as a city, to be making sure that that we do work together. Of course, on the other hand, I mean, the future for our city is great, but we need to continue that, if you like, that investment that we've seen over the last, particularly over the last 6 or 7 years, a lot of private sector investment. There's been a lot of confidence in Upper Hutt, so that's important to maintain that and not stifle it. And that's about being able to create an environment where people feel comfortable and that local government's not a hindrance for them. And so that for me is really important, and that's about working not just as mayor, but it's also really important for to have a council that's thinking that way, to make sure that that development and that progress we've seen in Upper Hutt continue.
So with that being said, some of your counterparts have called for a council merger. Would you be a supporter of that?
Well, look. One of the things that needs to take place is at some stage we've got to have that discussion, and I think that that discussion will take place whether we like it or not. Because the fact, if you start looking at particularly what some of the directives that's coming from central government, you only look at the waters situation. They're saying that the way forward is working together, and take that away from councils. Local water done well. If you take that away from councils, looking at some of the regional approach to roading, look at they're talking about some regional approaching to planning. So it's inevitable, whether people like it or not, it's inevitable that at some stage that discussion will take place.
I'm kind of curious about the commissioner issue with one of your neighbours, the observer that they ended up with down in Wellington itself. When we were talking to Campbell a couple of weeks ago, he had concerns about the fact that the process doesn't feel particularly open. As local governance, you guys haven't been told exactly what the criteria were that Simeon chose to use before he put in that observer. Being so close to Wellington itself, there's obviously an impact as to what happens in that city to your city. I'm wondering what your perspective is on the whole process so far, and your thoughts on what it takes, what that level is to actually get that government intervention in place now. Like, is it something that, with your experience, you feel like you've got a bit more of a grasp on, or is it still a little bit vague?
No, the threshold's quite high. There's no question about it. And I think, to be fair, I think the government were patient. You can look at a number of reasons why not to do it, and say that the threshold's too low, that they didn't, they set the bar too low and they came in. The actual fact of the matter is that if you looked at Wellington City, it wasn't functioning well. There were issues, and one way or the other, it was going to have to get help or sorted. And I have no issue, and I think that what the minister's done is right. And certainly the commissioner appointed is there as well, not the commissioner, but as an observer, the observer he's appointed will help them through it. It's a warning sign for the councillors to say, hey, listen, you're on watch. Things aren't going well, and the region and the country expects you to behave better. And I think what you'll see with the observer, that will sharpen people's minds and think that, we're under scrutiny here. Let's do the right things, because it's not about it's not about a whole lot of individuals who look at me type attitude. It's about, in the end, having to collectively make good decisions. And I'm sure that the observer will help that.
So you and I have talked a lot about the disability issues that have been coming into the light over the last year or so. So if you are re-elected, how will you ensure, from a local perspective, that's upheld, basically?
Well, look, I mean, again, it's working not only with what the tools and what we can do as a local government. It's also working with many of the central government agencies because they are a vital part of that whole jigsaw. So it is like really important that we work in not our community and collectively, because some of the issues that the disability sector suffer aren't just local here. If you look at it, some of them should be tackled regionally, and we shouldn't lose sight of that. But it's everyone making sure that we get the full jigsaw in place to make progress.
Do you have any follow up on that, Paul?
Well, it does make me wonder, if being from Auckland, what does the Wellington Regional Councils work on together at the moment? What are they doing well together?
That's a good question, Paul. That's a good question because, if you look at some of the issues that the councils look, obviously working through some of the roading issues. Obviously, they're also working together on the waters. I mean, we had a working group that included that started when the previous government concept was by the present government was discontinued, and the new setup and how they wanted waters done. Well, we were working collectively with the Horowhenua, Kapiti, Wellington, Parirua Regional Council, Lower Hutt, Upper Hutt, and the three Wairarapa councils. But as we've progressed that, working together now, some have decided to do other things. So Horowhenua are obviously looking to go probably to the Manawatu area. Two of the three Wairarapa councils decided not to join the Wellington model. So, that's working together. But there's a good example of starting well, but sometimes not staying in the tent when we're not quite sure yet where Kapiti might go. So, yeah, interesting. But again, is a good example that if you're looking at what the progress that Auckland had made, we're not making that same progress by being as disjointed as we are and not working as close as we should. In fact, at the moment there's some real in some of the plan changes where most of the local authorities are actually are going to appeal some of the work that's been done by the Wellington Regional Council. So that doesn't leave. That's not good blood.
There was a lot of actual talk sort of at the end of the last government's term around reforming local government. There was the Future for Local Government report that was put in place that got binned by this lot when Simeon came in. Did you get a chance to look over that report?
It did, and it was a thorough report done in a considerable time and cost. And look, in my time in local government, that's about the fourth review of local government. And sadly, it's obviously this is destined for where the others have been, on the bookshelf or as a doorstop. But it's interesting because one of the things that everyone clearly states today is that the future of local government, the way we know it today, whether it be in critical mass and size and income, if you like, that the crude tool of just rating is not sustainable. And one of the things that it did look at, that review, was alternative types of funding for local government. And that's all very well, but of course, what happens is that invariably means that central government is going to actually offload some things or alternative ways, but it's usually taking something out of their coffers and transferring to local government. And successive governments over the years have all said that's a great idea, but just not now.
It's never now. In the future, exactly. At some point.
Yeah. And as you've seen across the country, without exception, over the last couple of years some considerable rate rises in councils right across the country.
Have you met with the minister, and if so, what concerns have you shared with Mr. Brown?
I've met with him. We've had him at several at Mayoral forums, and I met with him earlier in the year when he asked to talk through on some of the water issues. Um, but they are aware of the issues we face, and I think one of the things one of the reasons they put an observer into that they are wanting the Wellington region to work closer together, and we hear it a lot because um, they say clearly that it's very much easier to be dealing with Auckland with one in the major area than to be dealing with. And, traditionally what's happened sometimes, Wellington and the Wellington mayors and the Wellington councils have all agreed, yeah, that's a good idea. And then, again, people suddenly decide it's not such a good idea. And you can understand ministers put their hand up in the air and said, well, one minute we're dealing with everyone and now we're dealing with three different approaches. And that certainly doesn't help us to make ground with central government.
Any other questions for you, Paul?
Oh, millions, but they'll wait for now. They'll wait for the next one.
Okay, I guess the final one from me is what are your hopes going into the next election for you, your local election?
Well, again, it's maintaining that momentum and continuing that, Blake, that the environment where people are confident to invest, because we will look in the next couple of years. The if you like the slowing down of the economy and the cost of living and inflation, etc., will have diminished, and we'll be on another cycle. And it's really important to create and to have that environment within a community. So from mayor as a leader and councillors who are determined to work together and create that environment so that when the upswings there, that momentum's continued, and Upper Hutt's part of that. Really important.
Well, unless you've got any other questions, Paul.
Just one, and it sort of feeds on to what you've just said. After 24 years in the role, has your vision for what you want from your community changed? And if so, how? Or if not, what is that vision? What do you see being the perfect Upper Hutt?
Well, one of the things that has changed, and I'm proud of, is the fact that from a point of view of Upper Hutt is a major player in the region now, that we're taken seriously, and that more importantly, we continue to be a place where families want to grow their, to be and to develop their families, and that's really important, because with that you need that mix of people. You need that, and talking about, and that's from age groups and that, but also we've diversified as a community. There was once a time, not that many years ago, where culturally we were very similar, but over time, the face of New Zealand's changed, and our city is no different to that, and that brings with it, um, that brings lots of benefits, and that's something that will continue, and that will help Upper Hutt grow and continue to be a leading edge in the region.
Well,
Fantastic.
with that being said, Wayne, I'll ask you to wait there, and to the viewers, I'll thank them. I'll thank you for being on the program. It was a pleasure to have you on the program.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here with you.